So, Lea, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's start it.
So welcome everyone. We are very happy to see you all here for this session dedicated to the WASH Roadmap 2025. My name is Léa Delaville-Montbazon, and with Aude Lazzarini, we are the Secretary of the Roadmap co-chairs, and we are going to facilitate this webinar. This session is organized by the co-chairs of the Roadmap, Marc-André Bensley from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, and Claudio Deola from Save the Children UK. During this presentation, you will hear from several speakers coming from different organizations, but working towards the same goal. By 2025, the WASH sector will have the capacity and resources to deliver an emergency at scale, anywhere and at any time. To ensure that all speakers will be able to share their messages today and to respect the time limits, we ask them to record the intervention in video form. This session will be mostly recorded with few live interventions by the co-chairs and Monica Ramos, Global WASH Cluster Coordinator. In order to save as much bandwidth as possible, we ask you not to activate your camera. We also turned off your microphone to ensure that everyone can enjoy the best possible listening quality. A last thing, you have the possibility to have a last transcription if you click the button at the bottom of your screen. Thank you for your attention, and I now give the floor to Marc-André Bensley, co-chair of the Roadmap, who will introduce the session.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. I'm delighted to welcome you to this event around the WASH Roadmap and its initiatives. We have prepared an event which includes interactive parts to get your feedback, and that's very important for us to know if the roadmap is moving in the right direction. So please tell us your thoughts, your hopes, but also dare to make critical feedback if you think it's adequate. Let's start with videos, two videos on critical challenge faced by the WASH sector now, its gaps and its difficulty to respond to an increasing number of crises.
Hello, my name is Andy Bastable from Oxfam, and I'm here to present the 2021 Humanitarian WASH Gap Analysis. This was done with a collaboration of different agencies, including the universities of Tufts, Cranfield and Leeds, with the WASH Cluster, ELRA, and it was led by Oxfam. This was done during 2020 by holding a number of focus group discussions with people affected by crisis across 30 different countries. There were also focus group discussions with field practitioners and a global online survey, as well as 3 case studies in Yemen, Ethiopia and Somalia to unpack some of the issues. These were led by facilitators, over 120 of them volunteers from Oxfam, UNICEF, NGOs and the Red Cross, and local WASH cluster coordinators, with approximately 2,450 people consulted. There was also a literature review to find the gaps in the literature, and 614 documents were analysed. The results, as you can see here, for the 4 different data streams, in bold red, you see that need for water supply and provision is number 1 in both the focus group discussions from affected people and practitioners. And then it's number 4 for online survey, number 2 for the literature reviews. So that scores very highly. Second is in green, and that's need for sanitation, access and coverage. That scores fairly highly in the top 10 across all the different data streams. And as with water, in not bolded green, there are issues that are related, like the need for fecal sludge management, poor quality sanitation services. Ranked third by the affected populations was improper waste, solid waste disposal. So that is number 2 from the practitioners, number 7 for online survey. So that's also surprisingly quite a big one. And the 4th big issue to raise is around weak hygiene practices and knowledge. So that was ranked in the top 10 by all three groups, apart from in the online survey. And again, there's overlapping issues that have also been ranked, such as lack of access to hygiene tools and products and lack of containers, possibly for MHM issues. So those are the four big issues that we want to unpack and try and understand. Is it a problem with the standards? Is it a problem with resources? Why is it that affected populations are still saying there isn't enough water, there isn't enough sanitation coverage, there isn't enough information on hygiene promotion? So these are the issues that are the big findings from the report, and there's a full report from Tufts University, and then there's a cover note which is a discussion of that analysis. So thanks very much.
Hello, my name is Cécile Renaudin and I'm currently leading Médecins Sans Frontières Watson Working Group. In 2014, MSF issued a report called Where is Everyone? Responding in emergencies in the most difficult places, trying to assess the performance of the humanitarian system in emergencies based on case studies in South Sudan, DRC and Jordan, and a systematic review of available evaluations. The main bottlenecks the report highlighted were that UN system based on triple hats, implementers, funders and coordinators, is at the core of many dysfunctions, leading to bad decision making mainly. The fundings always has been a bottleneck, but rather than fundings, choices made by NGOs played a decisive role, leading to their lack of independent operational capacity, rather depending on the UN system. And that was particularly true for Maban County, South Sudan. The status was more important than needs in determining the level of assistance. That was in 2012. Now in Bentiu today, an April 2021 assessment found that the number of latrines in working order is approximately 1 per 200 people, that the water distribution is variable and at times completely inadequate. For instance, taps are running twice a day for 1 or 2 hours without notice, leading people to use water from unsafe sources. Those bad environmental conditions led to an hepatitis E outbreak. But there is also an alarming exponential increase in cases of acute watery diarrhea, also associated with poor water and sanitation conditions. So how facing this collective failing in our first mission as humanitarian, saving life? As for MSF, we have been in South Sudan since 1983, and it's pretty certain we stay longer. Whilst MSF keep looking at how to preserve its emergency identity in this context, there is a common acknowledgement that everyone is waiting for our input on capacity building, and we may do it. Good surveillance system for faster response to public health emergencies, an operational shift from secondary hospitals to community-centered and integrated health services, and the MSF Academy, with training for the continuous development of auxiliary nursing that is already a success story in many of our projects there.
Thank you. So now Mrs. Monica Ramos, the Global WASH Cluster Coordinator, will explain the crucial role that the Global WASH Cluster played in the initial design of the WASH roadmap process. Monica, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Marc-Andre. Thanks, colleagues. So just a quick overview in terms of looking back for the changes of the sector. So in 2019, very much linked to Cecile's intervention, there was the release of the capacity of the WASH sector study. That was a study that was commissioned by the Global WASH Cluster with Oxfam, conducted by the URD group. And basically, it really started to pinpoint five key areas where the sector itself was really struggling with some of the examples that we've just seen in terms of field delivery and the way that we were able to really have the capacity and the resources to respond to the needs in the field. That led us into June 2019, the 24th Global WASH Cluster annual meeting, where we came together around those five actionable items. We had a high-level meeting with 15 emergency directors from some of the leading organizations working in the humanitarian WASH sector. And actually that's where the commitment and kind of the birthplace of the roadmap concept and strategy came to light. So at that meeting, we came together and we really said, okay, we need to do something about this. And in order to do something about this, we need to develop a strategy or a roadmap for a way forward. So in January 2020, the roadmap was launched. We took about 6 months to work with a handful of key partners, over 25 critical stakeholders, to really flesh out the strategy. On the back of that, we decided that it was really needed with the partners to not only have a strategy, but have a way to action that strategy. So we developed an implementation plan, which consisted of 17 initiatives and basically formed partner consortia. So I know we'll hear from some of the initiatives later today in this session, but basically we got together with the partners and we tried to understand who was best placed to lead and co-lead the various initiatives across 4 main areas. That took us again about 6 months to pull all together. And then in December 2020, we had the package fully together in terms of the strategy and the implementation plan. And we took that for endorsement by 13 of the emergency directors. I should note that there were 2 agencies where the emergency directors did validate and endorse the strategy, but decided to hold off on the endorsement of the initiative. Based off of that, we started to have discussions early part of this year to really understand around the leadership and the governance of the roadmap. So that is where then we saw the handover to the co-chairs, so SDC and Save the Children, to really take this forward for the WASH sector. So as a global WASH cluster, we still stay very involved. We're very engaged in the roadmap. That's why obviously we're here today and we're very happy to be here today. We also are leading, co-leading, participating and contributing, I think, across almost all of the initiatives. So the team and myself are very supportive of the roadmap, and we really call upon all of the partners and the broader WASH community to also engage with the roadmap. We believe in the message, we believe in the strategic aim and the vision of the roadmap, and we also strongly believe in the newly established secretariat and the new governance structure. So Marc-Andre, I think I'll stop there and hand it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. Of course, we are looking forward to collaborate with you and to continue to make the roadmap a success. We have now a little section that is based on the fact that we are all aware that many changes in the WASH sector are needed. And we have now 3 videos that will give you a perspective of WASH actors on 3 important topics. The first one is localization, the second one is nexus, and the third one is innovation. So please enjoy the videos.
Hello everyone, I am Lama, an architect from Damascus, once a volunteer in the Syrian Arab Red Crescent, the SARC, and now a project coordinator in its water and rehabilitation department, a specialized team of more than 600. In total, the SARC depends on about 12,000 volunteers who have been the main emergency responders in the country from the very beginning of the crisis. The SARC and its main partner, the ICRC, stood shoulder to shoulder from the very beginning of the crisis and to this day, in the field of water, sanitation and shelter. Now, the SARC works closely with about 15 UN agencies, INGOs and national Red Cross, Red Crescent societies. In 2011, when the crisis started, the SARC resolutely built up its humanitarian response under the motto "For all people everywhere." The Water and Rehabilitation Department was created, and we worked extensively on building a capable and professional workforce. By now, 2,000 young engineers or architects like me have gone through our training programs. This effort was driven by a very strong Syrian desire to support each other and to lead their own response. For us, it was natural and essential that we have a voice in the implementing and designing of our own programs for our own communities and people. However, crisis should be first seen through the lens of those directly affected. It's in that spirit that we joined forces with our partners such as the ICRC and combined their expertise and experience with the unique knowledge and connection that our volunteers have. The result is an incredible team where diversity becomes a strength but also keep us Syrians at the center. The generosity, solidarity and courage of SARC volunteers came at a price. However, as to this day, 65 volunteers have been killed because of the conflict. Now, as I speak to you, 13 million people are still in dire need of humanitarian assistance in Syria. Livelihoods, essential services, education have all been shattered by the fighting and still at a risk of further collapse through the protraction of the crisis. In the last decade and until today, the SARC water and rehabilitation teams have been engaged in thousands of engineering projects, hundreds of pure emergency responses, daily water trucking, drinking water supply, setup of temporary shelters, sometimes very big with waves of displaced people, up to 50,000 people at once, such as in Aleppo in 2015, or up to 100,000 people, such as at the fall of the Ghouta in 2018. As of today, our engineers are still engaged in daily drinking water trucking for 500,000 people. On the other hand, hundreds of more complex engineering projects have been executed on large urban water, sanitation or power supply systems, from the sources to the end users. Nowadays, for example, our teams are engaged in large drinking water systems, such as Khafse, designed to serve 4 million people with up to 800,000 cubic meters of treated water per day. They work on sewage lines repairs and optimization in Damascus or Aleppo suburbs and in the reconnection of essential high, medium and low voltage power lines, such as in the Eastern Ghouta. Our engineers are also engaged in dozens of reconstruction projects in health structures, including COVID-19 facilities, schools, permanent shelters, industrial public bakeries, morgues, prisons, houses of returnees. All in all, at least 12 million people benefit from 300 to 400 of our projects every year. With these few words, and as I speak to you now from Damascus, all I can do is to promise that we will honor the memory of our lost friends and family members, and that we will continue the work for the sake of those millions of people who are more than ever today faced by the devastation of war.
Dear colleagues, let's talk about the nexus and why it is so important. I'm Guillaume Pirambert, a graduate from the Swiss Institute of Technology in Lausanne in environmental engineering. I am the head of the Water and Habitat Unit at the ICRC. We work in over 50 countries, carrying out every year more than 1,500 wash and construction projects for around 30 million people. Urban crises are characterized by three challenges. First, scale and impact. 50 million people worldwide currently affected by armed conflict in urban areas. Additionally, of the 80 million people displaced, a large number are residing in host communities rather than camps. Second, urban services are complex. Engaging on urban services requires an understanding of interconnected they are. For instance, the operational continuity of water supply rely on electricity supply to function. It is thus not enough to focus on water supply when to ensure the delivery of water, as it creates a demand for electricity. It is therefore necessary to develop a more holistic response that factors in the interconnectedness of these services. Third, duration of the crisis. Using ICRC as an example, the average time that the ICRC has been present in its 10 largest operations is 42 years. So, unprecedented needs necessitate a rethink of collective humanitarian action. So what do we mean by the nexus? In 2017, the World Bank, UNICEF and the ICRC launched an initiative which led to the recent publication of the Joining Forces to Combat Protracted Crisis report, which provides recommendations on how to better support service providers collectively. Despite much discussion of the importance of the humanitarian development nexus, there is only limited evidence of positive practice. This is partly because urban conflicts are often characterized by a highly unstable security situation, which prevents development actors from operating on the ground. Yet, humanitarian and development actors are supporting the same service providers, and this requires increased exchange and coordination between them. This should aim to leverage their respective comparative advantages for more durable solutions. To finish, I would like to mention a practical example. In Juba, South Sudan, the construction of water supply systems could not keep up with Juba's rapid growth. In 2017, only about 12 to 15% of the population were connected to a centralized water network. In 2015, the ICRC started a long-term response focusing on developing a centralized water system in Gunbo area. A challenge was the limited capacity of the local water authorities. The ICRC partnered with GIZ to leverage their extensive experience in setting up and supporting water authorities in South Sudan. The ICRC and GIZ signed a MOU which transferred the creation of an appropriate end-user entity that is capable of sustainably operating the plant system to GIZ. The Gumbo Water project is scheduled to be completed and handed over to the operator by the end of 2022. It is hoped that the present and future population will receive sufficient safe water to avoid further outbreaks of water-related diseases. Thank you and goodbye.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Hesbeck, Senior Innovation Manager at ELRO's Humanitarian Innovation Fund, the HIF. ELRO is a global charity that supports humanitarian research and innovation through our two funding programs, R2HC and the HIF. Our biggest thematic innovation portfolio is within WASH, where we funded over 50 innovation projects. The WASH Roadmap team have asked me to talk to you today about the potential of innovation to help make humanitarian WASH more effective. I want to start by picking up where Andy's presentation earlier in the session left off, by talking about the humanitarian need for innovation. Innovation can only be effective if it's driven by the needs of the sector. The new WASH gap analysis that Andy talked about helps us do this, and I want to give an example of how we're using innovation to address the gaps. One of the most frequently mentioned gaps in our report was around hygiene. Both lack of access to hygiene materials, such as soap and hand washing stations, and hygiene knowledge and behaviour ranked highly as problems that people affected by crisis would like to see solved. This is not a new gap, and we've been working with innovators to address it since 2015. But good innovation takes time, and we haven't seen any of them reach their full scaling potential yet. 5 years ago, we issued a hand washing challenge and funded 5 innovations to improve hand washing behaviour and access to hand washing materials and infrastructure. Out of those 5, 1 idea failed at the initial proof of concept stage, 1 idea stalled after the first pilot, 2 ideas had good results at pilot stage and are now undergoing external independent evaluations, and finally 1 idea has reached the scaling stage. That's the Oxfam hand washing station, a robust, low-cost and user-friendly upgrade to the tippy tap. Oxfam delivers the station alongside its behaviour change intervention, Mum's Magic Hands, to increase hand washing rates. In response to the pandemic, HIF, in collaboration with the FCDO, has funded Oxfam to set up 2,000 stations across Cox's Bazar, DRC and Ethiopia, and Oxfam itself has produced an additional 3,000 stations that are available for other agencies to buy. A clustered randomised control trial evaluating the hand washing station and Mum's Magic Hands from July to September 2018 found that households that had access to those 2 interventions were significantly more likely to use soap when hand washing, significantly more likely to report that hand washing with soap was important for the prevention of illness, and they were also significantly less likely to report diarrhea in the previous 14-day period compared with the control group.
So for this scale-up, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine is evaluating the impact, and results will be ready by the end of the year. This is just one of the many innovations in the sector that has a high potential to transform how we deliver WASH services. As our gap analysis shows, these new solutions really can't come fast enough. I hope I've captured your interest with this short highlight. And for more information about the WASH innovations we work with, please have a look at ELRA's WASH Innovation Catalogue or email me on c.hestbeck@elra.org. Thank you very much.
So now that the frame is set, I have the pleasure to introduce Mr. Claudio De Ola, the second co-chair of the roadmap. He accepted the challenge to explain the roadmap in less than 6 minutes, but also how we intend to address some of the issues that were mentioned in the videos just before.
Hi everyone, my name is Claudio De Ola. I am the Senior Humanitarian WASH Advisor at Save the Children, but I'm now speaking to you on behalf of the WASH Roadmap as one of the 2 co-chairs appointed by his steering committee. In this session, I will explain in practical terms what is the roadmap, its theory of change, its vision, and how concretely we believe the roadmap could change the humanitarian WASH sector over the next year. As already mentioned in the introduction by my colleague, during the last 40 years, the humanitarian WASH sector conducted a thorough and humble exercise of self-analysis and self-evaluation. This exercise recognized the need of a harmonized and collective strategic approach for the WASH sector, which in turn culminated with the activation and the endorsement of the WASH roadmap. We believe the roadmap will enhance the capacity of the WASH sector to provide high quality and accountable responses rooted in preparedness across the humanitarian and development nexus. The roadmap will build resilience and mitigate the impact of emergency while increasing disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and environmental protection. In addition, innovative and predictable and flexible multi-year funding of the humanitarian WASH response has the potential to contribute to the target set by the Sustainable Development Goals for the sector. So, in a nutshell, the vision of the roadmap is that the WASH sector by 2025 will have the capacity and the resources to deliver in emergency at scale, anywhere and at any time. The vision will be achieved through 3 strategic axes and 3 pillars that integrate and mainstream the core principle of humanitarian assistance. The first axis is about the survival WASH, in the recognition that humanitarian WASH responses are life-saving and are driven by public and environmental health outcomes. The second axis is about quality. It is fundamental that humanitarian WASH responses consistently comply with agreed accountability and quality standards. The third axis looks at humanitarian WASH responses that are predictable and result in sustainable impacts. These axes are underpinned by 3 functional pillars, which respectively elaborate on the capacity of the sector, on the coordination around the sector, and eventually on the crucial aspect of the financing of the WASH sector. The roadmap's implementation plan, informed by this theory of change, is composed by 17 strategic initiatives, which focus on 4 key thematic areas: information and knowledge management, capacity development and professionalization, coordination and quality, and eventually innovative funding and resource mobilization. Here you can see how the 17 strategic initiatives have been categorized under the 4 thematic working groups. It is worth noting that each working group has its own representative, and these are members of the executive committee of the roadmap. We can see how initiatives directly support the axis and reflect on the pillar. For instance, the WASH in public health emergency links to the survival WASH. The accountability and quality assurance link to the second axis, and the WASH severity index looks at the predictability of WASH responses. Each strategic initiative is led by one or two organizations which estimated the investment required, which drafted concept note and the work plan. The implementation plan of the roadmap is aligning existing resources in the WASH sector, and as such is to be supported by a financing framework which outlines the investment required to reach the vision. Finally, we would like to reiterate and to stress the importance of a strengthened collective commitment and a strategic engagement by all stakeholders active in the WASH sector. We will not be able to achieve the roadmap ambition if we will not work together, and if we will not be inclusive by welcoming as many organizations as possible. This slide gives you the idea of the joint effort of the massive and terrific collaborative exercise which is the WASH roadmap. These organizations are currently formally engaged with the roadmap, and it is our commitment to do our best over the next year to further expand this list by also prioritizing national and local organizations.
Okay, so now is the time for first interactive session. I invite you to answer to the three first polls of the session, because we would like to hear your views on what should be the priorities of the sector, what changes should be prioritized, but also your ideas for improving the sector response. So you will be able to find the polls on the right of your screen in the polls category, and we leave you a few minutes to answer. Thank you.
So you just heard it from Claudio. There are 17 initiatives in this roadmap. And here we would like to present you now a sample of this project presented by the colleagues with their own words. So during the time you watch the video, please respond to the polls, to the questions. It's important, but also enjoy the diversity of our movement illustrated by the coming videos.
Hello everyone, my name is Baptiste Lecrio. I'm the Senior WASH Advisor at Solidarité Internationale, a humanitarian organization that has been working for 40 years in many countries to help people affected by conflict and violence, epidemics, natural and climatic disasters, and economic collapse. Today, I will introduce you to the Accountability and Quality Assurance Initiative, initially launched in 2018 by Oxfam, Solidarité Internationale, Tufts University, and the Global WASH Cluster, and supported by UNICEF and ECHO since then. The starting point is the analysis that despite considerable efforts, the quality and accountability of humanitarian interventions remain insufficient. Numerous reports and analyses, including the recent 2020 gap analysis, highlight user dissatisfaction with the services provided, both in terms of access and adequacy to their needs, as well as recurrent technical problems. For example, the Oxfam sanitation lighting research found on average 40% of women across different humanitarian contexts were not using agency latrines, even in daylight. The reasons for this included lack of privacy, sexual harassment, vermin, and lack of lightings and locks. Not only does the quality of the services provided appear to be insufficient, but the way in which it is measured and analyzed does not systematically allow for effective and adequate corrective actions to be put in place, as it focuses on tracking activities rather than understanding what is working for whom. Moreover, it would seem that perspectives on what is meant by quality and how it is measured sometimes diverge between practitioners, users, and coordinating bodies, not allowing for relevant analysis of what matters. To address these issues, the AQA project team developed a conceptual model set out in 2 key documents, which postulated that the main criteria for quality in humanitarian response were the achievement of objectives, absence of harm, and community satisfaction. And on the other hand, that given the complexity of crisis, actors in the sector should collectively establish clear qualitative standards to which they are accountable, systematically engage with populations to measure their expectations and adapt programs, and define metrics that show where to improve so that course corrections can be made in time to be effective. Therefore, the AQA initiatives aims to equip the WASH sector with the tools and approaches required to focus on what is important, to continuously adapt to changing circumstances, and ultimately remodel monitoring systems to start measuring what matters. The tools are designed to be used routinely and collectively at the national coordination level. The approach is based on a step-by-step process that follows a define, measure, adapt, and learn cycle as shown on the diagram. While the main tools and frameworks have been developed, continued support will be needed to roll out and expand the initiative globally in the coming months, and to eventually transform it into a systematic framework that is used predictably across the humanitarian sector. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.
Hi, I'm Tineke Harmans and I'm Associate Professor of Sanitary Engineering at IHE Delft. In this presentation entitled A Strengthened and Acceptable Training Offer for All, I will share a capacity development activity under one of the roadmap initiatives. This roadmap initiative aims to develop models, mechanisms, and partnerships between humanitarian organizations and knowledge institutes to improve the delivery of humanitarian WASH learning opportunities worldwide and at a graduated as well as vocational level. It will increase the number of WASH professionals with key skills for the sector through accredited or certified learning opportunities and create partnerships for operational research at local level to generate evidence and improve the overall quality of the humanitarian WASH response. IHE Delft has a strong history of graduate level capacity development through master programs, courses, research, and projects. A couple of years ago, IHE UNICEF and the Global WASH Cluster started with the development of key humanitarian WASH courses. The result is the launch of the Graduate Professional Diploma Program, GPDP, consisting of 4 online courses of 5 ECTS each. They are accredited modular courses that can also be taken standalone, and you can see here the topics of the courses that were identified after consultation of the sector. Furthermore, several cross-cutting issues are addressed during the courses. The target group are professionals in the field of water, sanitation and hygiene who want to work in humanitarian settings, or professionals from the sector who would like to update and expand their knowledge to solve WASH-related problems in a range of humanitarian contexts. The courses are being developed with the help from the humanitarian sector and supported by the Global WASH Cluster. The expert reviewed the contents and structure of the courses, provided practical examples, and actively participated in bringing in their experience from the field. All developed educational material will be made available for use and adaptation by partners. For the first run of the GPDP this year, we have 28 students. As you can see, the students originate from different employers and from different countries. As a next step, we are working on scaling up and localization of the educational offerings with a pilot initiative. We want to offer the courses in different languages and different continents and have identified 4 academic organizations. By the end of 2020, we aim for the 4 academic partners in the Global South to have started with the adaptation and integration of the 4 humanitarian WASH courses with the involvement of local humanitarian partners. This initiative is part of a long-term vision to build an alliance between academic partners and humanitarian actors from different parts of the world to develop the capacities of the humanitarian sector in a changing world by embracing the localization shift of the humanitarian response and ensure continuous and robust learnings.
Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca from REACH Initiative. I'm here to give a short overview of the WASH severity classification. The idea of the WASH severity classification, or the WSC, came from a realization that there is this great effort of working towards a very strong intersectoral analysis that can identify needs across sectors and key drivers of severity. But at the same time, the underlying WASH sectoral analysis has often not been as strong as it would need to be, and hasn't been particularly standardized or consistent. So while the food security sector uses the integrated phase classification system to classify food needs, there has been no such similar process within the WASH sector. So despite the growing wealth of data in the WASH sector over the past years, WASH analysis has still been rather ad hoc, done country by country, and with limited consistency in terms of approach or quality. So without a standardized system to transform data into clear decision-making processes, it's very challenging to accurately identify needs and to plan a response. But it's also more difficult to identify and mobilize for funding, meaning that key interventions often don't get funded properly. The WSC as a process is essentially trying to act as a filter to bring this wealth of data into an organized format and process it in a rigorous fashion to produce manageable results. So the WSC is what we're proposing as a solution to this problem. So then what is it? The WSC can be described as mainly three things. One is a process to build evidence-based technical consensus among key WASH stakeholders, a recognized interagency set of tools and protocols to classify the severity and drivers of WASH needs and vulnerabilities based on established standards. So this is not a process led and implemented by only one actor, rather it's a group of WASH stakeholders coming together, recognizing an approach and coming up with a standardized system analysis together. Finally, it's a process to support decision makers by ensuring a rigorous analysis of WASH conditions by consolidating a wide range of evidence. The WSC is not a data collection tool, rather it's a consensus-based analytical process using existing data from different sources. The WSC analysis process is classifying different areas in a country into different severity phases over space and time. It also set up to allow for cross-country comparisons that are not fully possible currently in the sectoral or intersectoral HNOs. We can then also start to understand better the magnitude, duration, and drivers of severities for specific areas or population groups, and to understand the number of people in need in various severity phases. So who is in need, how many, where are they, and what types of need do they have? You'll then be able to draw comparisons over time and across countries to inform strategic decision for advocacy and to ground global allocation of resources based on evidence. The added value in the long term will be that it can harmonize WASH data methodologies and approaches as it starts to be implemented in more contexts. Up to today, we have developed the analytical framework, analysis protocols, and released the WSC technical guidance document outlining the whole process. We have run 2 pilots in Afghanistan and Burkina Faso and conducted 2 full implementations in South Sudan and Niger. So in phase 2, so this year, we are conducting a feasibility study of the WSC process, which includes interviews with key stakeholders, and are planning for an academic review as well of the process that we've developed so far. In total this year, we'll be conducting implementations in 20 countries. That was a very short overview. Please do get in touch if you have any questions or if you want more information. Thank you.
Welcome. In the following, I will present the WASH Triple Nexus Initiative. For countries vulnerable to humanitarian crisis and climate change, the WASH Triple Nexus is an evidence-based collaborative approach that is key to delivering resilient and sustainable WASH services. Siloed approaches separating humanitarian and development interventions often fail, resulting in overstretched humanitarian responses and development programs unable to protect progress towards the SDGs. The Triple Nexus approach is a coherent, coordinated effort that strengthens complementarity across humanitarian, development, and where needed, peace actors, drawing on the comparative advantage of each. Since 2019, the Global WASH Cluster, Sanitation Water for All Partnership, German WASH Network, UNICEF, and other partners have led a global initiative to support the WASH Triple Nexus agenda, hosting several conferences and webinars. The learning exchanges have provided valuable contributions from a wide range of stakeholders. In recent learning exchange, key principles held by humanitarian, development, and peace actors were placed on a spectrum between humanitarian and development. The conclusion was that there are many more shared principles than not. These shared principles, such as leave no one behind, humanity, localization, do no harm, are a solid foundation for actors to find common ground. Where principles do not align, collaboration can be challenging. However, acknowledging and respecting differences is both necessary and manageable with the triple nexus collaboration. Well-coordinated collaboration should start as early as possible, for instance, with simple information sharing, and should develop over time as trust is built towards higher integration like joint planning and resourcing. Central to a WASH triple nexus collaboration are key ways of working at the sector, service delivery, and community level. An operational example is to develop adaptive management approaches that will allow flexibility to continue operation and financing in rapidly changing humanitarian environments. A programmatic example is applying risk-informed and conflict-sensitive approaches. Joint assessment, analysis, addressing multiple risks, including conflict, are at the core of the triple nexus. The next steps for our engagement are: establish a WASH triple nexus working group led by Global WASH Cluster and SWA that will provide global support on advocacy, resourcing, technical support to country platforms, along with fostering innovation and capacity development. While there is a formal process to get involved, anyone interested, please post in the chat or message the email below. Secondly, the group will publish a WASH triple nexus joint operating framework for implementation in country that is both practical and easily accessible for both policymakers and practitioners. We hope you're interested in the initiative. Please check out the link and contact us.
So the surprise of trying to make the things online, we had planned to have a longer video, but it's slightly shorter. So I give the word now to Lea, who will come back on the interactive session.
Yes, so we have a second short interactive moment for you to share your feedback on the roadmap and the presentation we have just shared with you. You will be able to answer to all the other polls. So please do not hesitate to share your contact details with us, because due to the time limit, we won't be able to discuss to all the questions you ask in the chat. But we ask you to ask them, anyway, because we will send you a minute with inputs and feedback about the polls and your questions if you let us your contact details. So please do not hesitate. And I think, Claudio, I will give you the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Lea. Thank you very much. While I will see if in the next few minutes we will get some result from the pool, but I guess we are eventually reaching the end of this session, and I hope by now you understood that the roadmap is gaining momentum. And so please do reach out to us at our email address for questions, for suggestions, for expression of interest, etc., etc. So as I said previously, we are an open community. We are looking to expand our group. We are looking for new partnership for expertise, for services and idea. And especially we are looking at partnership with national and local actors to basically complement our international bias. Also, I like to tell you that today we randomly showcased only few of the initiatives out of the 17 strategic initiatives that are part of the roadmap. We did so just for the sake of time, and so. But however, you can find information about the other remaining exciting initiative of the roadmap on our website. which is live. It is still under construction, but is live. And eventually, I'd like to say that so many of these strategic initiatives are not fully funded yet. So therefore, we are also welcoming partners who are interested in supporting financially some of the projects that the roadmap is bringing forward. And we believe that this would help our large community to address in a more sustainable way the water and the carbon cycles for the greatest benefit of the humanity and the nature. Before closing, and thank you everybody, I was looking at some of the results of the pool, but I can't see now how I could. Maybe Lea could help in seeing, or Aude or Marc-André, how we could look at the result of some pools. We still have a few minutes, and then we could comment your feedback and your comment. So when we ask you, what do you think is the priority for a more effective humanitarian WASH sector? It looked like sustainability. It's the more frequently answered word. And then, yes, I mean, we presented the initiative on the Nexus. We discussed on the Nexus, and we are fully in agreement on this. We believe that by bridging the gap between emergency and development, humanitarian action will have a better impact. The second pool was about ranking the priority for a change that are needed for an efficient humanitarian WASH sector. And it seems that a more effective localization has been voted the most. And again, we are in agreement. As a coincidence, one of our sessions was about localization. So we are pleased to see that the audience it's aligning with the roadmap members. If you could scroll down again, I don't think yet there are many results. Do you think the roadmap, this is fantastic. Do you think the roadmap can bring about a profound transformation for a more effective humanitarian sector? Well, there seems to be a consensus. We are pleased about that. We also believe so, and we will keep on working on that. Thank you very much for the trust that you're putting on the roadmap. And when it comes about what should be the priority of the roadmap, as you can see, collaboration, humanity, professionalism, complementarity, and reform that many people answer. Happy to see that you're interested in joining the roadmap. Most of you, 3/4 of the audience expresses the interest of joining us. You will be welcome, and we are looking forward to exchange and collaborate with you and provide updates. Yes, you're happy to receive information update on the quarterly basis. We will work toward this, and we are already preparing of collecting data, preparing dashboards on a quarterly basis. So that's perfect. Finally, in terms of communication, you will be happy to receive those quarterly newsletters sent by email. Hence, the importance of having all your contacts. And also, quarterly webinars will be appreciated. We will try to work also to see if we can deliver those. And a final evaluation. Thank you very much for your positive feedback. What I can say is that I can say thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you very much for this set of feedback. I'm conscious that there was not much time to provide feedback, but thank you. Thank you again. Thank you again for staying with us until now. And please stay tuned, because more will come. Thank you very much on behalf of the roadmap.